Moving on to the black cards, we have Bontu the Glorified, and honestly, this is a really sweet god card. In addition to having menace and being indestructible, it can't attack unless a creature you control has died this turn. But the thing is its activated ability, and I really think this ability really takes the cake, because not only can you turn it on, and by just sacrificing a creature, you get a lot of value out of that creature that you sacrifice. You get to scry 1 and drain your opponent some life, and plus Bunsu himself is really difficult to block. So yeah, it's pretty sweet if you think about it. Really, I really think this card will see a lot of play, and I also think it will see play in any deck that requires some sacrifice outlets. Just dang. Bontu's Trial, the Trial of Ambition, is definitely a trial that you'll have to watch out for, as it's very similar to a Cruel Edict-like effect. Like I said, the trials can be bounced and taken advantage of if you keep casting them over and over again. So this is something you can probably abuse to great effect if you know how to do so. Next up, we have our 1, 2, 3, 4... Oh, forget it. We have another copy of Liliana. It's not really necessary, because I feel like we have a lot of copies of Liliana, but honestly, this Planeswalker is not too bad, especially if you love zombies. I really feel like zombies are, well, obviously pretty well glorified in this set, and Liliana Death's Majesty is, well, here to glorify them even more. To be honest, this actually could also be used more as a reanimator spell for a really big creature than just a zombie generator or board wipe, you could say. But I think it's a pretty versatile card, and I think people will like this card, and we'll have a lot of homes in several decks. Mainly for casual, but don't count it out if constructed just yet. Next up is the return of another classic mechanic that, honestly, I think could have been a little bit more explored with in this set, but it's curses. Curses are kind of back, but the only thing is that they're really in, well, the color black. Cruel Reality is one of these curses, and I feel like it does something pretty bombastic, even though it does cost 7 mana. It does take a lot to remove all your opponent's permanents, but I feel like it is possible, and when it is, this card will certainly be punishing. Up next, we have a copy of Gravecrawler. Okay, it's not an exact copy of Gravecrawler, but it's pretty darn close. It's Dread Wanderer. Like Gravecrawler, you can get this thing back from your graveyard to play, but it does need a requirement, just like Gravecrawler. Although it does cost a bit more, I really feel like this will be a nice card for any deck that does revolve around graveyard synergies, or I guess you could say getting a horde of zombies from your graveyard really, really quickly. Another nice thing about this card is that it actually can block, unlike Gravecrawler. Yeah, I guess that can be a plus, but I guess when you want to attack with zombies, I think you're more focusing on eating flesh than really blocking. Moving on to Black's Aftermath card, we have Never Return. Never, I feel like, is a bit of a flashback to Hero's Downfall from Theros. We're getting a lot of Theros comparisons in this set, I know, but I guess it's to be expected. The downside to Never is it is a sorcery, and also return for the mana you pay. I feel like it kind of becomes kind of a lackluster effect. Just exiling a card and getting a zombie should cost a lot less mana than 4. Still, if you do need to get rid of a Planeswalker, this will likely see somebody else play in Standard, or I guess your zombie deck, considering you can exchange Never Return for a zombie just by exiling it from the graveyard. Moving on, we're talking about large black creatures in the form of Plague Belcher. This is kind of a throwback to, I guess you could say, 5 power creatures for 3 mana, like Phyrexian Negator, Drinker of Sorrow, and that crowd. Although, like those cards, Plague Belcher does have a bit of a drawback, as it makes you put 2 -1/-1 counters on one of your creatures. If you don't have any other creatures, you have to put it on the Belcher, but if you do, it really, depending on what creatures you play, really is not that big of a drawback. Several creatures in this set and throughout the game do have benefits that do happen when they die, so just getting that benefit by just putting a couple counters on them from the Plague Belcher gives you that, I guess you could say, value, and gets you a big 5 power creature really early. Another nice thing about this Belcher is it does have menace, so just keep that in mind. 5/3, 5/4, tough to block. I think someone will play that for sure. I'm not sure why, but I kind of feel like Shadow of the Grave should say, draw a card. I mean, granted, you probably cycled away a lot of your cards already to really get where you need to be, so I guess you could cycle more cards by getting them back from playing the spell. But really, could we have like a little bit more, I guess, benefit, you say? And even so, the most reasons we cycle cards is because we don't really want them anyway. speaking of Living End, it just keeps getting more and more busted for this deck. We have Horror of the Broken Lands, which, just like the Sphinx that I mentioned before, gets a benefit from whenever you cycle and discard cards, which, let's just face it, Living End does that a lot. And honestly, this is just bonkers. This is, while it probably won't be replacing Death Shadow and Death Shadow decks for Modern, Grim Strider does seem like it's a pretty powerful card for the mana you put into it. Getting a maximum of a 6/6 for 4 is usually pretty good. If only it had Menace, that might be too good, but still, this may see some play for Standard if you do like to run, well, I guess you could say, your wacky aggro deck that gets rid of all your cards really fast. I know there have been a couple cards in previous sets in recent memory that do give you really powerful creatures for getting rid of your hand, and this may be a part of those decks. Moving on to more zombie tribal, I really think that Liliana is just going whole hog with all these zombies. Lord of the Accursed is no different here, and it, well, is basically very similar to, well, just about any zombie lord you can think of. Giving zombies Menace, though, is, well, pretty scary, as though, well, zombies are pretty known for amassing in groups, and most casual zombie players will say that if you can get a whole bunch of zombies out, say, I don't know, from under the floorboards, Army of the Damned, etc., this can just totally wreck anyone's face. Other things that are terrifying, more so for Standard, is Lay Bare the Heart. This card is very similar to that of Thoughtseize, except you don't lose a life, and it's a little more restrictive. Although it does cost 2 mana, it's nowhere near as good, and you're likely better off playing Thoughtseize still if you do have Thoughtseize or have a format or play a format where you are allowed to have Thoughtseize. But I feel like this card will see play for Standard, considering that Standard is a bit slower, and also it's hand attack that picks off damn near anything. Talk about making your Black Sun Zenith completely out of proportions. Nest of Scarabs will, well, let's just face it, give you a Nest of Scarabs. Hot dog, if you Black Sun Zenith for X, where X is 4, and your opponent has, well, 4 creatures, you get 4 times 4 creatures, and, well, 16 Scarabs. Jeez, that's a lot of flippin' Scarabs. Moving on, we have the Trespasser's Curse, which is another curse that is found in this set. It's kind of similar to that of Curse of the Pierce Heart, except it only triggers when your opponent plays creatures, and you actually gain life on it. I know Curse of the Pierce Heart was not played very much in Standard, but this might be different, as the life swing is a bit more dramatic, and it does punish your opponent for, well, playing creatures. I got a question though, how come there weren't more curses?
They were unwanted and unflavorful. Also, they all are in Innistrad.
Well, I mean, could you have at least replanted something cool for black, like, I don't know, Attrition maybe?
Why, yes. Take a look at this classic card.
I mean, geez, I can't say I'm disappointed, but I mean, you could have done something a bit more exciting. How about Entomb? Maybe Entomb? I mean, come on, you're like burying something in here. I really feel like there could have been something more exciting than, well, Gravedigger.
Stop your complaining, mortal. We have other exciting reprints.
I don't think anyone knows that's a reprint.